Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining this stream. Morning news from Moscow program. Hello to our YouTube and the Rumble communities. I'm streaming on both platforms simultaneously. Today is 25th of June. Now it's 11 o'clock in Moscow time, and I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments from all over the world. And without further delay, let's start new segment. I just remind you, dear friends, that after new segment, I will take 15, 20 minutes, if necessary, a little more, to be engaged with the chat. So if you have a question or comment that you want to be highlighted, please use capital letters so that I will notice it easier. And so, yes, that's been said, let's start today's live stream news segment of it. And well, as I predicted, dear friends, it only took a few hours yesterday after fragile truce was reached between Iran and Israel, when Western ruling class and their allies in the political class of the West or the Israel, and also in media, started to derailing this truce and pushing the narratives for further escalation. It was easily predictable, so I guess I was not the only one who said that this is going to happen. And let me share with you, for example, on that matter, this news that Israel yesterday, as I said, literally after a number of minutes that this truce was broke, doubled down on its claims that Iran has violated truce and launched some 2 missiles towards Iran, which was, I think, false information, because Israel this way was trying to justify its continuing bombing of Iranian territory. And well, situation was deteriorating so rapidly that at one point Trump get involved, the U.S. president, and he tried to act tough on Israel. And you see on your screen now one of the posts that he made on his True Social. Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do it, is a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. And then he went to use some vulgar language in regards to both countries, that they have no freaking idea what they are doing and that kind of stuff. You are all aware of that. Probably all of you see that video. But most interesting is what happened next and continues to develop. Trump went to once again reiterate that Iran will never restart its nuclear program, although question is what he means by this statement, because if he talks about Iran's civilian nuclear program that only exists in Iran, then Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi was very clear that the country will continue development of its civilian nuclear program. But if Trump meant that Iran will not be able to continue or work on a military nuclear program, then, well, Iran did not really had in place military nuclear program to begin with, so therefore they're definitely not going to continue work on that. So with Trump nowadays we have to be extremely careful, because you never know what he means in his tweets, right? But he tried to highlight that well, US accomplished its goal. US airstrike was extremely successful. Iran's nuclear program was obliterated, nuclear facilities was obliterated, and so on. But well, and he was planning, dear friends, according to reports, for example, from New York Times, that NATO summit will be the triumph for him. He will brag about how successful US was to deal with Iran's nuclear program and so on. But New York Times is writing that these plans of Trump was derailed due to leak of the information from the Pentagon about actual effectiveness of US strikes. And this is extremely important, dear friends, because as I said, it only took a couple of hours and Western ruling class, globalists, neocons, and Zionists, and their assets in the political class of the Israel, US, European states, and in the media began derailing this fragile truth while pushing the narrative that, well, despite the statements of Washington, Iran's nuclear program actually is still live and well, and only for a few months was delayed process of creating an atomic bomb. And this was reported by CNN initially, right? It is clearly, probably many members of our community will agree with me that this is a clearly attempt to derail the escalation and to prepare ground for potential further involvement of US in military hostilities in a region, isn't it? So let's go through this news. First, the US President Donald Trump had hoped that the NATO summit in The Hague, that is taking place right now, by the way, these days, would be a triumph for him after the strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities and announcement of a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. However, the leak of a US intelligence report on the effectiveness of their attack has made his visit. New York Times writes, the leak of their Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, report occurred just a few hours after the American leader arrived in the Netherlands and caused doubts on his statements about the complete destruction of the Iranian nuclear program. The publication notes, in his opinion, in opinion of publication, this media outlet, their blow to the Trump's image was especially strong since the author of this report was the Pentagon itself, author of the leaked information, which was responsible for the strike on Iran. As a result, their optimistic mood of their American president was undermined. The U.S. intelligence community believes that the U.S. strike on Iran have not destroyed the major components of the nuclear program. CNN reported Tuesday, citing sources. According to preliminary U.S. intelligence assessments, the attack likely only delayed the Islamic Republic's acquisition of a nuclear bomb by several months. The White House has said those assessments are incorrect. And by the way, you see the line that Western propaganda that is completely controlled by neocons, globalists, and Zionists are pushing now that US strikes only delayed for a couple of months non-existing military nuclear program of Iran. And they are pushing narrative that, well, I mean, they're going to build a nuclear bomb like a couple of months later. So therefore, nothing was accomplished. That's the narrative, by the way. And I said yesterday straight away that no one should be misled by these reports about the escalation, because most likely globalists and neocons and their Zionist partners would try to derail the escalation and further escalate actually in a region because I said many times in my reading on the big picture, globalists want to create regional war, to provoke regional war in the Middle East, disrupt navigation in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait, to hurt China. And they don't care about what kind of damage would be done to the world economy or the economies of the Western countries, and they prove it many times with their actions, right? And also, as an additional explanation, I think one of the main goals of globalists and their partners in US and elsewhere is to first cut off China from Middle Eastern energy sources, and then to increase Chinese dependence on on supplies of energy from Russia and Central Asian republics, and towards the critical level. And I believe globalists are hoping that at that point, when Chinese dependence on the Russian and Central Asian supplies of energy will reach that critical point, they will be in a position, I mean, Western elites, to provoke tensions between Beijing and Moscow, and to basically create fear in Beijing that they might lose these last major lines of energy supplies, and by doing so force Beijing to take action, potentially military action, to secure closest energy fields, closest oil fields, gas fields. And do you think where these closest energy and gas fields are? It is in Central Asia, former Soviet republics, like Kazakhstan, for example, and it is in Russia. So that's what their main goal of the globalists, neocons, and their assets is. To, on the first stage, force China, cut off China from Middle Eastern energy sources and increase Chinese dependence on Russian and Central Asian energy towards critical level, and then to create tensions so that they will provoke confrontation between leading states in emerging multipolar world. And by doing so, they will basically, their hope is that they will destroy main and only actually competitors on a global stage. That's their game plan, by the way, right? And that's why I was saying that no one should be misled by these truths. Globalists and their partners will try to derail this situation, the escalation, and will do exactly the opposite. Will try to further escalate, and exactly that is happening. All these reports, by the way, on CNN and many other media outlets about ineffectiveness of US strikes and about non-existent military nuclear program of Iran is tasked exactly for that purpose, to further escalate situation in a region. Meanwhile, TASS news agency is reporting that Trump, as it was expected, reacted on this information, leaked information in the media, and in his style, basically accused U.S. media outlets of lying over the reports of U.S. strikes on Iran. What else would he say? But yet again, I think he is once again, as it was previously when Washington was engaged on a nuclear deal with Tehran, he is personally also engaged in this deception operation. I think so, right? And they all are playing parts of their own parts in this bloody theater that are orchestrated by the globalists and the neocons, right? And on this very matter, by the way, seems like Trump's ally is not shying away, basically, to express his opinion and their feelings when it comes to de-escalation in the Middle East. And let me give you short video, by the way, about statement that Lindsey Graham, U.S. Senator, made on the topic of ceasefire. Let's listen to this short clip.
It's a good thing if it leads to peace. It will be a step backward if it leads to the ability of Iran to rearm and retool. And the head atomic scientist in Iran, the one who's still alive, said they're going right back to enrichment. So I'm not so sure we've solved the problem yet.
So you see, he is not sure that they solved the problem. So they created they pushed the narrative with this non-existent problem of Iran's nuclear weapons that yet again non-existent, right? Neither military nuclear program, and now they are pushing this narrative that, well, we did not seems like we did not succeed, and therefore we have to continue, and they will bother, and they will, right? This is not random stuff that is happening right now. And on that very topic, by the way, if you think it's only CNN or so-called liberal media that is engaged in this deception operation, no, Fox News is, of course, plays along, right? Because Western media in its entirety, by the way, Western MSM is completely controlled by the globalists and the neocons, right? Globalist, neocons, Zionists, and they all play part in this, as I said, bloody deception operation to further escalate in the Middle East and to provoke regional war. And for example, Fox News Jennifer Griffin went to say, and she's from Fox News, right? According to well-placed sources who have seen their classified DIA assessments to the bomb damage assessment after the US military strike last weekend, the IAEA assesses that Iran's nuclear program could be back online in matters of months, from 1 to 2 months on their low end to less than a year on their high end. This is primarily intelligence assessment, and there is deemed low confidence in intelligence parlance. It is based, I am told, on satellite images and sites obtained since their strikes. The focus of the report is on their BDA at their Fordo nuclear power plant. So basically, Fox News is backing up NBC and CNN in their claims. Well-placed sources allegedly say Iran's nuclear program will be back online in month. Bunker busters only damage entrances of the Fordo site. Enriched uranium moved to secret location. And this is a second topic, by the way, that I said, isn't it, in my previous updates, that will be used also for further escalation. Topic of enriched uranium, and well, I was correct, isn't it? There more and more Western propaganda outlets are talking about this 400 plus kilograms of enriched uranium. And on this matter, dear friends, we have this short clip. I want to share with you this short clip when head of IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, is talking about on this matter. Let's listen what Rafael Grossi has to say.
Precise, Martha. I have to be very, very precise.
Of course.
We are the IAEA, so we are not speculating here. We do not have information of the whereabouts of this material. So this is why I'm asking, we are making an assumption, which is not a speculative or pure speculation, because Iran officially told me we are going to be taking protective measures, which may or may not include moving around this material. So it is quite obvious, you are asking me about it, that there is a question there. Where is this? So the way to ascertain that is to allow the inspection activity to resume.
So you see, dear friends, Western secret services for whom this element, Rafael Grossi, is working, are again using him to basically push forward this another narrative that about this enriched uranium, to basically prepare ground for a possible further escalation. And that's why, dear friends, I said there in my previous updates that I hope during the recent talks between Moscow and Tehran, between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Foreign Minister of Iran Abbas Araghchi, Moscow offered Iran opportunity to transfer its enriched uranium to Russia for the time being, so that enemies of Iran and enemies of humanity, let's say, globalists, neocons, and Zionists, would not be able to use at least this topic for further escalation, as they are already doing, right? But when it comes to Iran's position, by the way, in regards to IAEA, they're not going to allow IAEA experts inside Iran anytime soon, it seems like, because we have this report this morning that Iranian parliament has approved a bill to suspend cooperation with the IAEA, with the International Atomic Energy Agency. According to Ali Reza Salimi, a representative of the Iranian parliament's presidium, IAEA inspectors will be banned from entering the country until Iran's nuclear facilities are secured. And who can blame them, dear friends? We all remember that it was IAEA's report day before Israel began its war against Iran. that was used for justification of this attack. IAEA's report, which was speculative, right? Which was speculative about Iran's nuclear program. And afterwards, IAEA's director, Rafael Grossi, was pressured by a number of journalists, and he was forced to say that IAEA, despite this initial report that was very speculative, Grossi was forced to say that IAEA has no information, factual information, or the evidences that Iran is working on a military nuclear program. But now Grossi is back to his roots and speculating again about this 400 plus kilo of enriched uranium. And I really hope there is agreement in place between Moscow and Tehran, and that enriched uranium will be moved to Russia or to China, by the way, or to India. All these countries can handle it, right, for time being. And when the world and majority of humanity will manage to keep Middle East safe from regional war, when there will be enough guarantees in place, well, this enriched uranium can be sent back to Iran so that Iranian scientists will continue their work in their nuclear programs. But right now, I think it will be a clever move not to allow enemies of Iran and humanity to speculate on the matter of this enriched uranium, which is, by the way, is not enriched on a military grade level. It's only enriched there on 60%, and Iran did this as a tool in the negotiations to have a sort of upper hand that, you know what, guys, we have such capabilities, we are demonstrating this, but still we don't work on nuclear programs, right, military nuclear program, but we can if we want to. That was a public demonstration from Iran. They were not hiding nothing, right? This was all public information. And now to accuse Iran that, well, they were secretly doing some stuff, it's stupid. But unfortunately, due to immense influence of the Western propaganda, especially on the public in the West, they can push whatever narrative they want on the people, and majority will believe, right? Majority of people would not even do any research, even slightest one. Otherwise, they would know that this enrichment program of Iran was public all along, right? Anyways, dear friends, before I continue, let me notice that, and there is quite a lot of additional news that I want to share with you, not just about Middle East, but other topics too. But before I continue, let me take a minute or two and said that well, this project, especially for new members of community, that this project is completely subscriber funded, and if you like what you see on my channels, if you like my work, please consider to help me to maintain this project and these channels so that I'll be able to continue this work full time. You can support through several means. You can donate for this project through PayPal platform, Boosty platform, crypto, or you can subscribe to my Patreon page or the page on Boosty, where I have quite a lot of extra content on a regular basis. And yesterday, for example, second news update was published on Patreon and Boosty, and maybe today I will publish second news update on Patreon and Boosty also. Let's see. Or maybe I will have a second live stream later on. I don't know yet, but there is a lot of extra content on Patreon, and it is one of the ways to support my work, to subscribe there. You can choose your level of monthly supporter from $5 to then, it's up to you, right? All the links, all the addresses are under this video in the description box. After stream, I will also pin a comment with the links, and there are dear friends, you can use during the live streams Rumble channel, because my channel is monetized there and will never be monetized on YouTube. So you can use a super chat feature on a Rumble, and you can become a premium subscriber. There is options there too. Okay, that being said, many thanks to all the members of our community who supported and continues to support, and allows me to stay in this field of news and political commentary for third year now. And dear friends, let's continue now with more news. And well, I already mentioned that in Netherlands there is a NATO summit, isn't it, in Hague? And well, NATO is China as a next front line now. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte is ramping up hostile rhetoric towards the China, echoing Washington's line. According to Rutte, Beijing's military expansion is unprecedented and poses a direct threat to the West, especially over Taiwan. I mean, first of all, Taiwan is not the West, right? Taiwan is a Chinese province, and it's none of the US's or NATO's business what is happening between Beijing and Taipei. Let's be clear on that. It's a China, period, right? But secondly, I mean, these elements, by the way, that are formally, at least, in the decision-making positions in the West, like Rutte, in NATO, these people are not learning, isn't it? They are pushing same narrative time after time after time after time, and they are expecting to have different results. I mean, people have no trust to them. No one believes them, right? Especially outside of their collective West, by the way, isn't it? Because it is exactly the NATO and NATO's military expansion that forces countries worldwide, including China and Russia, obviously, to take steps to enhance their military capabilities. It's a NATO that is a problem for world security, not the Russia, not the China, not India or any other country. It's NATO and the collective West and the Western so-called elites. Am I correct, dear friends? It's a NATO leadership, isn't it, that day in, day out are talking about increasing their military presence in global South. They are trying to militarize not just Taiwan, but also Philippines and a number of other countries. So much so, by the way, that those countries in the global South that are formally part of collective West, like Japan and South Korea, seems like are scared now. You know, they don't want to be used and abused and sacrificed by Western elites, and maybe this is the reason why neither South Korea's or the Japanese leaders are visiting or participating in this NATO summit. That they are demonstrating that, you know what, we can be partners, but we don't want to be sacrificed for your geopolitical agendas. Maybe that is the message that Seoul and Tokyo are sending to the Western elites. Because, as I said, it's NATO that is a risk for the world security. Not Russia, not China, not India, not, I don't know, Brazil or South Africa. But with these statements, they clearly are, they are basically illustrating themselves, isn't it? More and more. And it is very unfortunate that people, due to this increased immense influence of the Western, this propaganda, unfortunately, a majority of societies in the Western countries are unable to wake up and see the reality. But the rest of the world, by the way, is a different story. And the vast majority of humanity stands on the right side of history and knows perfectly well which side is actually the threat, isn't it? It was NATO countries, right? US and UK, for example, that began creating military alliance in the global South. AUKUS. What the hell AUKUS is? If not the creation of the threat for China and other countries in the region that are cooperating with China. Why on earth they created this military alliance? And they were pushing, by the way, to bring in, and still continue to do so, to bring in South Korea and Japan in this alliance, while basically creating ground to sacrifice these countries on time of their choosing. But anyways, let's continue with some more news. And on the topic of Iran, dear friends, BRICS nations stand with Iran, and there was a joint statement from the BRICS. Military strikes against the Islamic Republic of Iran violate international law and the UN Charter. BRICS members condemn attacks against peaceful nuclear installations. Middle East should be free of nuclear weapons. This is statements of BRICS. And this last point, by the way, Middle East should be free of nuclear weapons, is definitely one that probably we will pay more and more attention as time goes by, because I remind you, a few days ago, former Russian president and the current deputy chairman of the Security Council spoke about Israel's nuclear program, military nuclear program, and questioned that program. Number of other officials also did the same. Iran is demanding IAEA, as long as that organization exists, to pay more attention to Israel's military nuclear program, program that we all know exists for sure, right? And now BRICS, by the way, which is a vast majority of humanity, now BRICS is making statements that Middle East should be free of nuclear weapons. So therefore, I think we will hear news about this topic more and more often as time goes by, and hopefully one day Israel will have proper leadership, humane leadership, let's say, and Israel will agree to get rid of nuclear weapons, as South Africa did, by the way, at one point. To continue, dear friends, well, RT is reporting that Western states lied about Iran's nuclear program, according to Russia's UN envoy, which is absolutely true. The US and Israel have spread disinformation about Iran's nuclear program as a pretext to attack Russia's ambassador to the UN, Vasily Nebezhny, has stated. Speaking at the UN Security Council on Tuesday, diplomat condemned the strikes on Iranian nuclear sites as illegal under international law and said they had created a real threat of radioactive contamination. And until now, dear friends, on topic of radioactive contamination, we don't really have precise information about contamination, not just in Iran, but elsewhere, as a result of these terrorist attacks of Israel and US on Iran's nuclear facilities. Nebezhny noted that the reports of their International Atomic Energy Agency, which carries out inspections in Iran, serve as a proof of their absence of proliferation risks. We want, and this is in a quotes, by the way, because no one trusts IAEA, right? We want to emphasize that nowhere in IAEA reports is there any mention of the Iran converting its nuclear stockpiles for undeclared or military purpose, Nebezhny said. And basically he went to once again confirm information that there is no military nuclear program in Iran. It's just factual. And the Iranian leadership itself did a very correct move yesterday. And for example, in terms of keeping peace in the region, and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian held a phone conversation with the Qatari Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani after the strike on the US Al Udeid base in Qatar, and expressed hope for a quick personal meeting. The Tasnim news agency is reporting. Obviously, right move and right step on part of Tehran. Even before strikes, Iran informed Qatari leadership up front that they were targeting US military bases, and they have no issues with Qatar. Then this phone conversation to reassure Qatari leadership that Iran is seeking good, working, friendly relationships with this nation. And also, according to reports, Iranian leadership made a call with the leadership of UAE and many other regional countries, exactly to make sure that outside hostile forces, would not be able to provoke regional war as they are intent to do. Right, so good work of Iran on diplomatic scale there, on diplomatic stage. TASS news agency is also reporting that Iran continues, meanwhile, to deal with the assets of Israeli intelligence on its territory. And we have these reports that since the start of the armed conflict with Israel on June 13th, Iranian law enforcement agencies have detained at least 700 people on suspicion of working for Israeli intelligence service. The Fars news agency reported there, and there are, well, quite a number, isn't it? This is just their allegations. Obviously, some people probably will be questioned, and then due to absence of evidences will be released. But significant number probably was arrested, not because of some mistake, but because of their actual evidences. And number is terrific, isn't it? And that's why yesterday, during the live stream, in a segment of lessons that we should learn from this confrontation, I mentioned that one of the priorities of counterintelligence services and all the countries in this world, by the way, outside of the collective West at least, one of the priorities in their work should be neutralization of potential assets of their hostile states and preventing measures to make sure that their enemy is not able to infiltrate state institutions of the country and society itself in large scale, as it was done, by the way, by Israeli secret services, for example, in regards to Lebanese Hezbollah movement, and as it was done in regards to Iran. And I mean, numbers are quite telling, isn't it? Meanwhile, NATO summit again, dear friends, in Netherlands, in Hague. We have this report that Trump intends to meet with Zelensky on June 25th, that is today, at the NATO summit in Hague. Originally, this information was shared by Politico media outlet, but this morning I see a number of other media outlets that were reporting about this matter. So most likely they will be meeting between Trump and Zelensky, and knowing how much Trump loves to brag about things, well, he might make yet another aggressive, hostile statements towards Russia. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if in upcoming days, by the way, rhetoric from US officials will become further aggressive towards Russia, and if they will also begin to adopting this draft law that they have about sanctions on Russia and on Russian partner states with some 500% tariffs and so on. Well, if they will go ahead with that, of course, that will harm a U.S. economy, first of all, and U.S. consumers. But yet again, Western ruling class, their assets in governing positions already demonstrated a million times that they don't care about ordinary people, by the way. They just don't, right? So I expect a significant escalation, by the way, between Washington and Moscow. And probably today we will see some indicators, additional indicators of that. TASS news agency is also saying that, well, Trump also intends to, not just to meet Zelensky, but also to make a deal with Russia. But this is all nonsense, right? This is all nonsense. I don't think there is anybody in Russian leadership, literally anybody, at this point in Russian leadership that has even that can trust Trump or his administration even for a second. But trust is absolutely absent in relationships between Russia and US, in relationships with Russia and the collective West countries in general, and this would not change, by the way, for decades to come. It would not change because I see no realistic ways how societies in the Western countries will manage to reclaim their own country their own countries and to build up a new decent elites there, including political elites. So therefore, Western world gonna be run by very same type of people that it is run by now, which means that there can be no trust between Russia and the collective West countries for decades and decades to come, right? There might be some communication and some talks, but it's just a waste of time. That's all, really. And on the very topic of absence of trust towards the West, statement was made by Foreign Minister of Russian Federation, Sergei Lavrov, who is probably, I would not be mistaken to say that one of the most informed persons in this world, right? So Russia needs cast iron guarantees on Ukraine. In the case of West, trust but verify principle is not enough. This was stated by the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov speaking at the 11th International Scientific and Expert Forum, Primakov Readings. To what extent can, and we have quote from Lavrov's statements there, by the way, to what extent can we trust the West? Lavrov is asking. I believe that even former US President Ronald Reagan's formula of trust but verify is insufficient. He said, we can verify in different ways. We can verify by agreeing in some agreements on mechanisms for verification, their implementation of the agreements. We can verify through special services, both political and military intelligence. Their SVR, Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, as you know, actively monitors actions that directly harm the Russian Federation. But we will have to think about it. We will need cast iron guarantees on Ukraine, of course, enshrined in their Security Council resolution. All through, I repeat, the West can do anything. The Security Council has already trampled on these guarantees many times. So even while saying that Russia needs iron cast iron guarantees and enshrined in the Security Council, same time Lavrov is also saying that you know what, even that might be somewhat not enough, because West already demonstrated many times that they don't care about international law whatsoever, right? Including about Security Council and its decisions, right? Lavrov noted that West has proven incapable of reaching agreement, not for the first time in history, which is absolutely true. And we have another quote from Lavrov. One of the most striking examples is the so-called Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, when Hitler needed to better prepare for war against Soviet Union, which he did. Now, and I remind you, dear friends, that this so-called Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact was signed between Moscow and Berlin before Great Patriotic War began, and this pact was about non-attacking each other between the countries, and Germany obviously used this pact to better prepare, basically, its Plan Barbarossa, right? And to attack Soviet Union. So it's a factual. Now to the Minsk agreements, which Germany, among others, guaranteed to sign, were also used to prepare for war against Russian Federation. And also true, isn't it? From Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact to Minsk agreements, Western countries were always trying to use these diplomatic agreements as a tool of deception. They were simply lying, and therefore they cannot be trusted whatsoever, not now, not in decades to come, until they will be trustworthy, decent human beings in a position of elites in the West, right? Which might actually never happen, but let's hope that at least in decades, in like 3-4 decades, societies in the West will manage to do something about it. Let's hope so. But right now, Lavrov is very clear that it is going to be tremendously difficult to basically deal with the collective West because of this exactly this absence of trust. And probably you all would agree with Lavrov, right? If you were on a position of Russian leadership, would you be able to trust representatives of the collective West countries after everything they did? I don't think so, right? Even if you would wanted very much to reach some agreements and to have trust in place, you just would not be able to believe them. I mean, it is what it is. But anyways, let's continue, dear friends. Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó stated at the meeting in the Netherlands, in the NATO summit in Netherlands, that the final decision of the NATO summit no longer includes the phrase about the irreversibility of the Ukraine's path to join their alliance, phrase that was present in last year's Washington summit statement. Okay, maybe in final statement, communique, or whatever they're gonna sign up for, will have no such a phrase in it. But Rutte, for example, Secretary General of NATO, said that Ukraine will join NATO. He said it yesterday. That was, isn't it? So they're continuing to pushing this narrative of Ukraine joining NATO, anyways. So does it really matters what kind of phrases they have in the paperwork? I don't know. I don't think so, right? And when it comes to Ukrainian crisis itself, TASS news agency is reporting that Russian troops liberated Dileevka settlement in a DPR. So progress of special military operation continues. I'm quite sure today we will receive information about additional settlements that were liberated by Russian forces. Also, TASS news agency is reporting that Ukrainian armed forces control now less than 0.5% of their territory of the LPR, Lugansk People's Republic, and I guess, I'm not even gonna guess, but probably, I mean, how long it will take before Russia will completely liberate LPR? I mean, you tell me, dear friends, it's not gonna be too long, right? So soon LPR is going to be completely liberated. Also, Vzгляд newspaper is reporting that yesterday Russian armed forces conducted long-range precise strike with their four Iskander ballistic missiles on military industrial complex of Kiev regime in Dnipropetrovsk region. According to reports, one of their facilities were seriously damaged, facilities that was used by Kiev regime for drone production and other military activity. And also there was a powerful strike in Kramatorsk on military and logistical infrastructure of the Kiev regime. On your screen right now, you can see aftermath of that arrival. I mean, it was a huge explosion, isn't it? And some military infrastructure of Kiev regime was seriously damaged, if not completely destroyed. Also, by the way, when it comes to military industrial complex, we have this report this morning that Rostec has delivered another batch of new 4++ generation Su-35S fighter jets to Russian aerospace forces, which is a great news, of course. And well, South Caucasus now, TASS news agency is reporting that Prime Minister of Armenia, Western-controlled, by the way, US-controlled Prime Minister of Armenia, Pashinyan, stated that the plan to seize power in Armenia was foiled. I mean, this is a lie. This is a pure lie, dear friends. There is a uprising right now in Armenia. People are demonstrating against this regime, not the first time. There is a new wave now. And this US-controlled regime in Armenia is trying to suppress public But let's go through this news first, and then I will share with you what I think about all this stuff. Armenia Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan stated that, excuse me, law enforcement agencies prevented the seizure of power in their country. These Western controlled regimes are always using this narrative, isn't it? To suppress opposition, always, and to suppress public. Law enforcement officers have thwarted, and this is quote from Pashinyan, thwarted the large-scale and sinister plan by the criminal oligarch clergy. He is attacking church, by the way. Then see what kind of language he is using in regards to Armenian religious leaders. Criminal oligarchic clergy. I mean, this is crazy. But anyways, let's continue. Law enforcement officers have thwarted the large-scale and sinister plan by the criminal oligarchic clergy to destabilize the situation in the Republic of Armenia and seize power. He wrote on his Telegram channel, publishing statement from the investigative committee. Security forces are currently searching the home of the leader of their opposition movement, Sacred Struggle, Archbishop Bagrat Galstanyan, religious leader, by the way. He and his supporters are accused of preparing terrorist attacks with the aim of seizing power. And this is all BS, by the way. This is all lies. And when I see this news, by the way, I remember Georgia when I was living there during the Saakashvili's presidency, who was also Western asset, by the way, US asset. And you think what was the one of the first move when CIA established in Georgia a regime of Saakashvili? This regime, this Western-controlled regime, one of the first moves what they did was attack on the church, on Georgia's Orthodox Church. And they were using all sorts of brainwashed elements, all sorts of people that for money will do anything, literally. Nothing to be said about direct Western assets in the country to basically humiliate Georgia's Orthodox Christianity, Orthodox Christian Church, to humiliate Christians, believers. And this attack was so massive, by the way, that at some point, even terrorized society, terrorized by this regime, at some point says, you know what, we had enough of it. And people rebel. And as a result, Saakashvili and his henchmen lose power. And Saakashvili is in prison now for many crimes that he committed against Georgia and Georgian citizens, but not for all crimes, because he committed numerous crimes, by the way, against me personally too, against many people in Georgia and against me also, because he annulled my Georgian citizenship unconstitutionally, based on false information that regime itself created, right? And due to this criminal decision of Saakashvili, I was a stateless person, by the way, for more than 10 years, until I become a Russian citizen. But it's, it's not about me, it's about developments in Armenia now, right? And as I said, when I see this news, by the way, I mean, in memory, developments in Georgia refreshed straight away, because they are operating, these Western-controlled regimes, by the way, they are operating under orders of same Western institutions like US, CIA, and others, right? And they have a same textbook, what to do, when, and how, right? And as Saakashvili's regime was attacking Georgian Orthodox Church, that I am part of it, right? I've been baptized in Georgian Orthodox Church, so I'm gonna be part of it forever. And now, although, by the way, as you all know, Georgian Orthodox churches are sister churches, so I'm always welcome in any Orthodox church anywhere in this world, including Russia, obviously. Some nuances there. And now Armenian regime, this Western controlled regime in Armenia, is doing exactly the same as Saakashvili did. They're attacking most important, one of the most important institutions for the society, most respectful institutions in society, right? Armenian Gregorian Church, one of the oldest Christian churches in this world, by the way. And they're gonna lose, as Saakashvili's regime lost in Georgia. This Western-controlled regime in Armenia will also lose. They don't want there to be any respected institutions for the society, right? That they are not in full control of. And that's why Saakashvili's regime, under instructions from Washington, from Langley, let's say, let's be more precise, we're attacking Georgian Orthodox Church because it has and will have always great trust of the society and great respect of the society, and same is happening in Armenia. People have great respect and trust for the church, and that's why Pashinyan's regime is attacking this church, right? And they're gonna lose, by the way. They're gonna lose. These puppet regimes, by the way, they all work by same textbooks, you know, just about everywhere, man, isn't it? Let's hope Armenian people will finalize their struggle as soon as possible, and they will get rid of from these assets of their enemies of Armenia as soon as possible. And clearly, current regime in Armenia, Western-controlled regime in Armenia, is enemy of Armenian people. 100%, by the way. Enemy of not just Armenian Gregorian Church, but enemy of Armenian people. 100%. Let's continue with this news. RIA Novosti is reporting that, Xi Jinping, by the way, Chinese leader, will not travel to Brazil to participate in upcoming BRICS summit in Rio de Janeiro. This was reported by Chinese media, South China Morning Post newspaper, to be more precise. BRICS summit itself will take place from July 6 to 7. And, this is unfortunate, isn't it? This is unfortunate. The Russian president probably would not travel because of the hostilities because of the proxy war that West is waging against Russia. And for safety reason, obviously, Russian president has no right to risk, right? But China, at least for now, is in a different situation. There is no direct open proxy war against China, hot phase of it, at least for now. And Xi Jinping could travel to Brazil, but he is not going to do, seems like. And this is unfortunate. I guess there is some serious tensions inside the organization on a number of topics, and we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out what exactly is the reason that is creating these tensions, and clearly this type of Chinese leader is a demonstration that Beijing is not happy with something, right? Hopefully, whatever issues organization is facing will be resolved, because this world needs BRICS, and needs effective BRICS, by the way. And I would not be surprised if we will find out that Chinese leadership is upset because of their slow progress in terms of creating alternative financial and their banking system, alternative to their extremely weaponized Western one, right? Maybe that is the reason. I know some countries in this organization don't want China to lead the process, but same time, we should all acknowledge that China is a leading economy among us, right? Among BRICS member states, and they're probably in a better position to lead than others, right? But that not necessarily means that China will or have to dictate anything to anyone. BRICS was built on different principles, right? We are all listening to each other and taking into account each other's positions. And so, hopefully sides will manage to overcome and whatever issues they are facing. And well, I will share with you this news also, by the way, and I will end their news segment on that. RT is reporting that more Russians are warming towards the US, according to poll. So a new survey conducted by the Public Opinion Foundation indicates that Russians' opinions of the US have improved over the past decade. True negative attitudes still prevail. Overall, their study polled a total of 1,500 people from across the country in early June. Results published on Tuesday show marked shift in public attitude compared to 2015. According to survey, 18% of respondents say they now feel positive about the US, nearly double the 10% recorded 10 years ago. The share of those experiencing negative views of America dropped from 38% to 31% over the same period. The number of people who described themselves as indifferent towards the US also fell from 46 to 40%, while 11% said they were unsure of how they felt about US. And well, some statistics, by the way, some social study. We all know that all these studies should be taken with a pinch of salt, but overall, I think this is interesting information. Due to hostile actions of the U.S. leadership, obviously, society is also skeptical of U.S. Majority or mostly. But nevertheless, the number of people that sees US positively is also increasing, because these people are realizing that, well, regimes come and go, right? Countries stay and people stay. And therefore, obviously, I'm in support of having a friendly attitude towards Americans, because they are not our enemies. Regimes that they have are, but ordinary people, they don't want to harm us. I don't think so. If you conduct study in US and ask people, do you want some harm to be done to Russians, vast majority probably would say no, because that's how normal people would react anywhere, right? But regimes, yeah, I mean, these regimes are different. And in US, there is one of the most hostile regimes towards Russia, historically speaking, right? At least after Second World War, for sure. And it is quite ironic, isn't it, that Russia was among very few countries that were actually supporting American revolutionaries in their struggle for independence. But this is forgotten in US a long time ago. So yes, some numbers, by the way, some interesting study there. And this is it when it comes to news segment. Hopefully you did find it informative and interesting. And let me check now. Chat. And well, 15-20 minutes, let's get engaged, exchange opinions on some matters. As I said, dear friends, it will be always easy to notice comment or the question if capital letters are used. There are Smoky Sally is commenting. Thank you, Levan from California. Thank you, Sally, for kind words. Grateful. A question. I see question from Don Zugar, and I guess there was no super chat on Rumble. Otherwise, probably my wife Anna would tell me about it. So, question from Don Zugar, Levan, why won't you answer my questions? Really? Donate to your Patreon, but you refuse to answer a question. You answer Nidish questions, and I doubt he gives you any money. Don Zugar, did you when you ask question? I mean, did you write something on Patreon to me and I missed it? Sorry for that, but you can write. Send me PM, please. If you write question in the comments under the videos there, maybe I missed it. Or after all, I'm a human being, isn't it? Not a machine. But I'm reading your question right now, and I did not know you was upset about it. So if I see your question, I will react on it. Why should not I? Right. So sorry for inconvenience, Don Zugar. And if you're, if you that upset or unsubscribe from my Patreon, it's your decision. Question one: what is your personal opinion? Trump, he's a pathological liar. First, Trump is a pathological liar. Second, he is provided with false information. Third, he is a moron. I think all three can be true, by the way. I think he is a pathological liar. He lies too much, right? I think he is also provided with false information by intelligence, first of all, by CIA and CIA partner Mossad. And thirdly, I think he is a moron. I mean, he truly is someone with very low IQ, I think. Very low, extremely low IQ. I mean, especially for president. That's my honest answer, by the way. I think all three is true. Thank you for your question. Svetlana Vladimirova is commenting, what is now common to call globalists? I call bourgeois imperialists. What, if any, is there a difference in your opinion, Levan? Thank you. Bourgeois, sorry, Svetlana, but I don't know what bourgeois word means even. But I will agree that they are imperialists, that's for sure. Borges, what is the Borges, Anne? So they are imperialists, that's for sure. They are bloody imperialists, by the way. That's I agree on that absolutely. Who would not, right? Bourgeoisie. Okay. How is pronounced? Bourgeoisie. I mean, bourgeois. Yeah, they are imperialists for sure. There are certain words I cannot pronounce properly. I mean, I'm struggling with many words, but some words are just really, really difficult to pronounce. I have to hear that word like, I don't know, 100 times, and then probably I will manage to do something about it. Okay. My wife is now helping me with this. So Svetlana was asking what connection there is between globalists and bourgeois. What is difference? There is no difference. They are same groups, by the way. I think behind the globalists are standing main forces are aristocracy of the Europe, royal families first of all, and among them most powerful is a British royal family and British aristocracy, and they are bourgeois, right? Those so-called elites, generational elites, right? That did not really deserve to be in a position of elites, but they get this position по наследству. How should I say по наследству? From their ancestors, right? So I think they are very, very much same people. Questions. John is helping with moderation on Rumble. Banzo Beans, thank you for assisting, for helping. And well, I'm definitely gonna miss some questions there. But I'm trying to go as fast as I can through chat. So sorry if I'm gonna miss your question. Don't be upset, please, dear friends, because I mean, you know, I don't ignore questions intentionally. Why should I? I mean, what is the point to do so? Doing so? So I did not see any queue, by the way. Oh, I see question symbols there. Okay. Rampo once, Levan, what people in Russia think about Trump? Do they find him stupid? Well, I have no information about any studies on this matter, by the way. So I don't know what people in general thinks about Trump, but based on his behavior, I don't think many people here in Russia sees him as a big intellectual. I think I will not be mistaken if I will assume that majority of Russian society don't really sees him and many other officials in the West to be really intellectuals. I mean, and we pay attention to it, by the way, right? For us, it's kind of it's work demand. If you are on a position of power, if you are official, then you have to talk in a certain way, you have to behave in a certain way, and your communication with public or on your workplace has to has to demonstrate that you are actually on the right position, including based on your education and intellect, right? So I don't think in Russia many officials would dare to behave in ways that Western officials do. But yet again, that's the difference between them based on a culture, I guess, based on education. So yes, I think barely anyone in Russia considers Trump to be intellectual. So I don't want to upset Trump supporters, by the way, but you want honest answers? Well, that's how it is. Also, question from Don Zugar. You see, Don, I see your question and I'm highlighting. Also, do you go swimming in the Volga? Don, I'm in Moscow. Volga is not that far away from here. I guess some 150 kilometers, approximately. But no, a few years ago there was me and family members and the relatives were discussing to go towards Volga for a camping for a couple of days, but it did not happen. But here in Moscow, we have Moscow River, and there is certain areas where people actually. I'm not sure if swimming there is okay, but people do swim in certain places, by the way, where you have a beach type of area and stuff, right? But I would not recommend anybody to swim in the Moscow River, especially in city limits, because of this extreme activity of their boats, by the way. Moscow River is very active, right? And in my videos, in my walk and talk videos from banks of the river, you can see, isn't it, how many boats are moving up and down, especially these hundreds of tourist boats, by the way. So yes, I have not. I do not go to swim through Volga, by the way. Thank you for your question. And also there was a super chat on Rumble. Alan Richards, thank you very much for your super chat. Have any Russians, any or many Russians visited their holiday resort that North Korea are building for Russian tourists? Well, if processes, if result is still in construction, probably not that many Russians had visited that place yet, but relationships between the two countries are improving. Not just improving it, relationships were okay always, but nowadays we are strategical partners. And if you remember, dear friends, I was saying even before agreement was reached between the sides about strategical partnership, that if North Korea would open its economy for Russian businesses, well, Russia will flood. Russian companies will flood North Korea with technologies, with investments, by the way, multi-billion investments. And with that, tourists will come also, obviously. And therefore, I think that result, and I'm not an expert in North Korea, but I trust your report that, about this resort. And I think many Russians, especially from Far East, will travel to North Korea to have have some holidays there. Why not, really? And give it 5-10 years, and I think North Korea will open much more for Russia and for the world than it is now. And it will take. I mean, when the economy is open, by the way, for investments, it does only takes like 1-2 decades, and the huge jump can be achieved in economy, right? And in 10-15 years time, one may not even recognize North Korea. But yet again, if leadership there will allow Russian investments, right? So yes, I think many people from Russia will go to North Korea anyways, right? Especially from Far East, because it's just not that far away. North Korea is bordering Russia's Far East, right? So, but I have no statistics right now. I might try to do research on that, and let's hope I would not forget. And tomorrow I can tell you how many Russian tourists actually visited North Korea last year, for example. If there is any statistics in Russian segment of internet, I will try to find out about it. Thank you once again for your super chat and the question. Nidish Kumar is also asking, Levan, what does USA enter into Congo? What's with the Christian massacres in Nigeria? Well, it's not just Nigeria. Just a couple of days ago, there was a massacre of Christians in Damascus, isn't it? And well, unfortunately, these religious fanatics of all sorts are committing these hate crimes whenever they have an opportunity to do so. These completely brainwashed elements. And unfortunately, there was a tragedy in Nigeria, as you mentioned. Over 100 civilians, Christians, were killed, isn't it? It was a massacre there. And unfortunately, Nigerians experiences this kind of horrific crimes time to time. I believe majority is Muslim there, and minority is a Christian, and there is some tension in between the groups, which is unfortunate. By the way, both groups should live in peace and prosperity. Why they are fighting it? It's not Christians not really attacking much. It's Christians being attacked, right? And when it comes to Congo, US are entering to Congo. I don't know, man. When it comes to African nations, whenever you hear that any Western country is entering this or that country, it's always about natural resources, right? It's always the case, because Western countries demonstrated their time and again that they are not really about cooperation. They are going in, taking whatever they can take, and leaving country in ruins, or as poor as it was before they went in, right? And there are so many examples of that. Well, one may argue that, well, under European occupation, it was British occupation, isn't it? Well, Somali, for example, Mogadishu was rebuilt, and there was beautiful architecture there, and so on. Yeah, they robbed Somali so much so that they were building this, constructing these buildings for themselves, right? Not for the locals. Same argument being used by some British tourists, for example, in their videos when they are visiting India. They are saying that, look, these buildings were built during their British rule, and now these buildings are not in great shape. What are you talking about? When UK when British Empire went to India, India was a third economy in this world, right? According to some reports that I have seen, at least third economy in the world. When British Empire left India, the country was one of the poorest ones in the world. So can you imagine how much British colonialists robbed the country and the nation? And they're talking about some buildings that was built, by the way. Come on now. So yes, most likely it's about rare earth and whatever else Congo has, right? But nowadays, I for quite a while I have not heard about further escalation between Congo and Senegal. Did they manage to achieve some de-escalation for time being, at least? I don't know, Nidish. I need to refresh my knowledge on the current developments in that part of the world. Well, dear friends, let me check. I guess this is it. Also, Nidish is asking, Luan, are your defense satellites already launched there? Have to do it immediately? I mean, I don't know if you pay attention, Nidish, but almost every other week, at least every month for sure, there is launches, by the way. Sometimes several times in a month, there are launches that Russian Roscosmos and the Russian aerospace forces are conducting. And God knows how many satellites for in interests of Russia's defense ministry were launched already. We are talking about dozens, by the way. So Russia is paying great deal of attention to its orbital grouping of satellites there. Part of it is civilian, for civilian purposes, but a significant part is also for military purposes. So Russia is working actively in this direction, for sure. Literally, like several days ago, there was launch of Angara 5, isn't it, from Plisetsk. Literally several days ago was the latest launch. And I believe satellites were launched for interest of the defense ministry in that case too. And let's end the Q&A part on that, dear friends. Thank you all for joining the stream, for your attention. Have a wonderful day. And dear friends, if you come across some short videos of mine from this live stream, even though you have watched it already, if you have time, please open the video, just like it, and if you can leave some commentary, that might help to reach a wider audience, because especially on YouTube, by the way, where algorithm is suppressing my content tremendously. And also, if you want to support my work, all the links you can see under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a wonderful day and take care.